My birthday gift was a trip. When I came back, my family had thrown my belongings in the trash, saying I didn't live there anymore, and that they had given my room to my spoiled brother. It was my 22nd birthday, the first one I'd ever taken for myself. No family dinner, no cake I had to bake for myself while my mom criticized the frosting. Just me, a carry-on, and 3 nights in Myrtle Beach. I'd booked it with babysitting money and a small bonus from my part-time job at the university library. My first trip alone. It felt like claiming something I'd never been allowed to have. Independence. I pulled up to the house just after 6 p.m., sun dipping low behind the old oak tree in our front yard. The air smelled like cut grass and grilled hot dogs. One of those perfect American spring evenings that makes you feel like everything's just fine. Until I saw the bags. 3 black trash bags sat on the porch, leaning like drunks against the railing. I slowed down, blinking. There was a white grocery bag on top. I recognized it immediately. It was mine. I'd used that bag to carry my curling iron to the trip. My stomach flipped. I killed the engine and got out of the car. The front door was shut. Curtains drawn. Odd, because Mom always left the blinds open during sunset. I called her name once. Twice. No answer. I turned to the bags, heart hammering, and opened the first one. Clothes. My clothes. Folded carelessly, like someone had tried to be respectful, then gave up halfway through. The second bag held my books, high school yearbooks, my university ID badge. The third was a mess of chargers, a cracked picture frame, and the stuffed giraffe I'd slept with until I was 16. I stared at them, frozen. Then I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I knocked, hard. My hands were trembling. This had to be a mistake. Maybe they thought I wasn't coming back tonight. Maybe the bags were something else. Maybe... The door opened. My mom stood there, wiping her hands with a dish towel. She didn't look surprised, just annoyed. "Emily," she said flatly, "didn't expect you until tomorrow." "What is this?" I said. My voice cracked. "What is this?" She glanced at the bags and shrugged. "We needed the space." You put my stuff in trash bags?" Her eyes narrowed. "It's not like that. You're never here. We assumed—" "I was gone for 3 days," I said. "You knew I was coming back today." "Well, Brandon moved back in," she said, like that explained anything. My stomach dropped like I was in freefall. "You gave him my room? He's going through a lot. Emily, he needs a stable environment." I almost laughed. Brandon, my 34-year-old brother who hadn't held a job for more than a month since 2015, who'd dropped out of college twice, who had back problems that flared up only when chores were involved, that Brandon needed a stable environment? "What about me?" I asked, half whisper, half scream. "Where am I supposed to go?" She sighed and crossed her arms. "You're an adult. You've been living at school for 2 years. You always say how independent you are. We figured it was time." "Time for what? To be erased?" My dad appeared behind her, holding a beer and looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Don't start drama," he muttered. "We've had enough stress." I blinked. "Drama? You have your life, Em," he said. "Brandon doesn't. He needs help. So you threw me out?" "No one threw you out," Mom snapped. "Your things are right there." "In trash bags," I said. "Don't be dramatic." The porch light flicked on, and I felt suddenly like the entire world was watching me fall apart in slow motion. I picked up one of the bags, the one with the picture frame, and it tore at the bottom. My yearbook slid out and cracked on the steps. I stared at it. There was a note taped to the doorframe. I hadn't seen it earlier. "Please don't ring the bell again. You don't live here anymore." Mom. It wasn't just the note. It was the handwriting, calm, rounded letters. She'd taken her time, prepared it, anticipated this moment. This wasn't a mistake. I left without saying another word. I loaded my bags into the trunk of my dusty Corolla and drove to the one person I could call without shame, Jewel. My best friend since sophomore year. The kind of friend who keeps a toothbrush for you just in case. She opened the door before I rang the bell. Her eyes widened when she saw my car. "Jesus," she whispered. "What happened?" I wanted to say, "They disowned me," or "They gave my bed to Brandon and my memories to the garbage," but all I managed was, "Can I crash for a bit?" She hugged me so tight I nearly cried. Nearly, but not quite. Not yet. Inside, I sat on her couch like a guest at my own wake. The TV was on low volume, a rerun of Frasier. Her roommate was gone. The apartment smelled like vanilla and popcorn. I finally spoke. "They gave him my room," I said. Jules turned to me, cautious. "Brandon?" I nodded. "They said I don't live there anymore." Her jaw dropped. "They just tossed you out? Without telling you?" "I went to the beach for my birthday. Came home to find my childhood in garbage bags." Jules stood. I'm gonna make tea. You're in shock. She was right. I didn't feel sad. Not yet. I felt hollow. Like I'd died and no one noticed. That night, I slept on her couch, curled up in a hoodie and jeans, my suitcase half unzipped by the door. At 3:07 a.m., I woke up needing water and passed a mirror on the way to the kitchen. I looked at myself. Not the way you do in selfies or fitting rooms, but really looked. And I whispered, "You were never meant to belong there." The words came out of nowhere, but they stuck. Just like that, the pain turned into something else. Not rage, not sadness, resolve. I didn't cry. I didn't go back. I didn't text them. Instead, I opened my laptop and started looking for rooms to rent near campus. I messaged my professor about picking up extra hours at the research lab. I searched Craigslist for used furniture and babysitting gigs. I was going to make this work. No one was coming to rescue me, and I wouldn't beg to be let back into a house that had been waiting to kick me out since I was old enough to stop needing permission. But deep inside, I made a silent vow. If they ever came knocking, needing something, asking for anything, I'd be ready. I wouldn't just be surviving, I'd be thriving, and they'd regret ever putting my life in a trash bag. It's wild how fast people move on once they've thrown you away. I remember waking up the morning after everything happened, still on Jules's couch, my spine aching, my phone battery dead, and just staring at the ceiling like maybe the universe would beam down some clarity if I stayed still long enough. It didn't. What it did give me, though, was a reminder, an Instagram notification. Brandon had posted, "Back home again. Mom's cooking hit different. Blessed family first." The photo was of him, barefoot on my rug, lying across my old bed. The headboard I painted lavender when I was 15 was behind him. He had a video game controller in his hand and a stupid smug look on his face, like he'd just conquered something. He had. He'd conquered my space, my place, my family. Jules peered over my shoulder and actually hissed, "He's in your room?" I just nodded. And he tagged the location. "You're home." No, they're home. I realized that now. It had never been mine. That's when it clicked for her. Oh my God. They didn't just pick him over you. They replaced you. That word hit different. Replaced, like I was a faulty part they swapped out for something flashier. But Brandon wasn't new. He was just louder, needier. And for my parents, that meant priority. "He's always been like this," I said, more to myself than her. "Always needed all the attention in the room, all the lights pointing at him. Or he throws a fit." "Yeah, but you're the one who got straight A's and actually helped around the house," Jules snapped. "You were literally paying for your own trip. He's, what, doing TikToks and pretending he's a life coach?" I smirked. "He does call himself a motivational content creator now." Jules rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. We laughed, and then we didn't, because underneath it all, I was scared. I had no room, no key, no backup plan, and worst of all, I had no idea why they'd done it. No real explanation, no conversation, just a decision made without me, over me. I spent the next week job hunting, between my part-time library job, a babysitting gig 3 nights a week, and tutoring high schoolers on the weekends. I could just barely cover rent on a shoebox apartment above a laundromat. It smelled like detergent 24/7, and the walls were thin enough to hear arguments from the couple next door. But it had a lock, a bed, and most importantly, no one else's name on the lease. It was mine. Meanwhile, my parents didn't call, didn't text, no apologies, no "are you okay?" or even a guilty thumbs up emoji. Radio silent. Until 2 weeks later, I ran into my mom. It was at the pharmacy. I was picking up generic ibuprofen because my back had been killing me from all the couch sleeping and stress. She turned the corner with a basket full of anti-aging cream and frozen meals. We locked eyes. She froze like a deer in headlights. I didn't blink. "Emily," she said, cautious, like maybe I'd explode in aisle 6. "Hi." "Hi," I replied, cold but calm. She looked me over top to bottom as if checking for signs of homelessness or failure. "You look tired." "Yeah," I said. "Couches'll do that." She swallowed. "We didn't expect you to react like that. You always talked about being independent. I was gone for 3 days, Mom. For my birthday." Her mouth tightened. "We thought it would be better this way. Brandon was struggling." "Brandon's always struggling," I said. "But somehow he always lands on his feet, usually on other people's necks." That one stung her. She blinked and looked down at her basket. "We just thought it was time you had your own life. You thought he should have mine." She didn't deny it. She didn't say sorry either. Instead, she said the thing that killed me the most. "You're stronger. He's not built like you." Oh, so that's what it was. They thought I could handle it, that I'd bounce back, that their betrayal wouldn't cost them anything because I was built for it. "I'm not a fucking backup generator," I said, stepping past her. "I'm your daughter." I didn't look back. Later that night, Jules brought over takeout and cheap wine. I told her what happened, and we sat on the floor of my new place, eating lo mein straight from the box. "You know what kills me?" I said between bites. I kept thinking I'd done something wrong, like maybe I was too distant, or not affectionate enough, or didn't come home enough, and now I realize it's not about me. "It's never been about you," Jules said. "You were just the reliable one, so they stopped checking if you were okay." That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the shadows of headlights crawling across the room. I made a list in my head of things I would never allow again: to be discarded quietly, to be the strong one just because it was convenient, to chase people who could sleep at night after hurting me. The next morning, I woke up early and emailed Dr. Grayson, my psych professor. "Hi, Dr. G, is there any chance you still need a research assistant for this semester? I'm available immediately and can commit up to 15 hours a week. Thanks for considering." He replied 13 minutes later, "Emily, I'd actually been hoping you'd reach out. Let's talk Monday. I have a feeling you're exactly who I need for this team." It was the first time in days that I felt something settle in my chest. Not happiness, but direction. I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't have a grand plan, but I knew this. If they thought they could swap me out like furniture, if Brandon thought he could sit in my bed and drink from my cup like some spoiled king, they had another thing coming, because I wasn't going to disappear. I was going to rise, and next time they saw me, I wouldn't just be their daughter. I'd be undeniable. There's a particular kind of silence that follows betrayal. Not the comforting quiet of solitude, not the peaceful hush after a long day. No, this silence is dense, ugly, and loud in all the wrong ways. It hums in your bones like an echo chamber, and no matter how many playlists you put on or how loud you blast your TV, it lingers. I felt it most that first Monday morning walking into Dr. Grayson's office. He had a lamp with a beige shade, a stack of psychology books 2 feet high on one side of his desk, and a half-eaten cinnamon muffin on the other. His office smelled like coffee and old paper. "Emily," he said, smiling wide as he stood. "Glad you came in. Sit, sit." I sat in the scratchy gray chair across from him, unsure of what to do with my hands. I felt like a student, a ghost, and an imposter all at once. "I read your thesis proposal again last night," he began, flipping through a manila folder. "You've got a rare voice. Honest, sharp, grounded. I need that on the team." My eyebrows shot up. "You still need help?" "I always need help," he chuckled. "Especially from people who've lived the things we're trying to study." I didn't know what that meant yet, but I nodded. "You'd be assisting on our longitudinal study about resilience in adverse family systems. It's funded. That means you'd get paid." My breath caught. Paid. Suddenly, laundry over a pizza shop didn't feel so permanent. "Dr. Grayson," I said slowly. "Are you sure?" He closed the folder, leaned back, and looked me dead in the eyes. "Emily, you belong in rooms where your voice matters. This is one of them. Sometimes the people who save us aren't flashy. They don't crash through windows or throw dramatic speeches at us. Sometimes they just give us a job and remind us we're not invisible." That week was the first time I felt like I was building something again. During the day, I logged interviews, transcribed participant responses, coded emotional patterns and adolescent surveys. In the evenings, I babysat 2 girls, Zoe, 7, and Harper, 5, while their mom worked the night shift at the hospital. They called me Emmy and made me macaroni necklaces. They hugged me at the door like I was family. And at night, alone in my apartment, I let the ache settle in like a dull migraine. Every once in a while, I checked Brandon's TikTok. He was thriving, at least in his own distorted universe. He had a series now, How to Recharge Without Working. I wish I were kidding. In one video, he sat in my old desk chair, explaining why the 9-to-5 mindset was a scam invented by boomers. "I'm not lazy," he said, dead serious. "I'm spiritually efficient." And the worst part? He had fans. Not many, but enough to make me feel like the world had officially lost its mind. My parents commented under nearly every post. "So proud of you, baby. Ignore the haters. Your light is too bright." Light? Brandon was a fluorescent bulb that flickered and buzzed and never quite worked right. But sure, let's call that light. It was surreal. They'd once told me I was being too selfish for wanting to move out after college. And now they were clapping for Brandon because he figured out how to upload a video with hashtags. The anger started simmering in me like a tea kettle on low, constant heat, just waiting to scream. That weekend, Jules and I went to the park to walk her dog. The sun was out, the air smelled like lilacs, and everything around me looked like peace. but I couldn't feel any of it. I can't stop watching his stupid videos, I admitted, as we walked past a guy flying a drone and a toddler covered in popsicle juice. Jules scoffed. You know they're not about him, right? I looked at her, confused. They're about you, she said. He's playing house in your room, posting selfies in your chair, eating food in your kitchen. He's not celebrating. He's stealing. That word landed hard. Stealing. She wasn't wrong. Brandon hadn't just taken my room. He was impersonating my existence, twisting it, mocking it. And my parents? They were co-signing it with emojis and heart reacts. That night, I blocked all 3 of them on social media. It felt surgical. Not freeing, not dramatic. Just necessary. Like cauterizing a wound that kept reopening. 2 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Mom. Why did you block us? We're family. That's forever. Call me. I didn't. Then one from Brandon. Heard you're still mad, LOL. Let it go, dude. You're better than this. Am I? Because if I were really better, I'd never speak to any of you again. But something in me still cracked, still bled. Later that week, Dr. Grayson invited me to observe a session with one of our participants, a 19-year-old girl named Camille. She'd been emancipated at 16. No family, no financial support, just grit and scholarship money. She looked like me. Or at least, a version of me that hadn't gotten the chance to fake a happy home for 20 years. After the interview, I stayed behind to organize the notes. Dr. Grayson leaned against the filing cabinet and said, You know what I've learned, Emily? Survivors carry silence like armor. I looked up. But the problem is, he continued, sometimes armor turns into isolation, and then you don't even realize you're still bleeding under it. I didn't respond. I couldn't, because he'd just called me out in a way no one ever had. That night, I started writing. Not for a grade, not for a project, just for me. I wrote about the moment I realized my parents saw me as a backup plan. I wrote about the night Brandon broke a lamp and blamed me, and they believed him. I wrote about all the quiet ways I had made myself smaller so they could shine brighter. Page after page. I didn't cry. Not yet. But for the first time, I saw my own pain written in my own handwriting. It was real, and I was still here. A week later, I got an email from The Bridge, a campus publication focused on student resilience. They'd heard about my research and wanted to feature me in an upcoming article. I hesitated. Then I said yes. Maybe it was time to let people see what surviving actually looked like. Not the highlight reels, not the fake quotes about strength, just the truth. Because if Brandon got to go viral for being a leech, maybe I could go visible for being alive. And just maybe, that would matter. The day the article went live, I woke up to 47 new notifications on my phone, an unusual number for someone who hadn't posted a selfie in over a year. The Bridge had titled the piece, Built for More, How One Student is Turning Family Estrangement into Purpose. There was a picture of me sitting in the university library, half smiling, one hand curled around a coffee mug. I looked tired. Not the glam kind of tired, the kind of tired that sticks to your bones. But there was a fire in my eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. The article was honest, too honest. It talked about my family, not by name, but by the shape of the wound they left. It talked about how I was kicked out without warning, how I rebuilt from a couch and 2 jobs, how the Safe Resilience Research Project became the thing that saved me from collapsing inward. It quoted me saying, "Sometimes the most dangerous thing a parent can do is assume strength means invincibility." By noon, my inbox was full. Some messages were kind, students thanking me for sharing, professors offering congratulations, people saying they saw themselves in my story. Some were less kind. One anonymous email read, "So you turned a sad birthday into a pity parade? Congrats, I guess." But the most unexpected message of all came from Brandon. It wasn't a text. It was a comment on the article. Public. For everyone to see. Maybe if you'd actually communicated instead of ghosting us, your trauma wouldn't need a spotlight. Family stuff is complicated. You're not the only one who hurts. For a second, I just stared at it, blinking. Jules saw it before I did and called me instantly. "You want me to reply for you?" "Because I will. I'll burn his whole social existence down." I laughed. Sort of. "Don't. That's exactly what he wants. But it's a public comment." "I know. And it's full of gaslighty BS." "I know. You're too calm right now, and it's weirding me out." I didn't tell her that I wasn't calm. I was boiling, but I was also strategic. The thing about people like Brandon, they hate being ignored more than they hate being criticized. So I said nothing. Instead, I took a screenshot, saved it, and moved on. Because here's the truth. His comment wasn't about me. It was about control. And for the first time, He didn't have it. That night, I had babysitting. Zoe had lost a tooth, so we did the whole tooth fairy routine with glitter and quarters. Harper insisted I wear a tiara while reading her bedtime story. They loved me with the kind of innocence only kids can give. No history, no obligation, no hidden scoreboard of who did what to who. When their mom came home, she hugged me. "You've made such a difference," she said. "They ask for you even when I'm off." Something in me cracked open at that. It was so simple, so genuine, and for a split second, I wondered what it would have been like to have a mom who hugged me at the end of the day just for existing. On the way home, I walked instead of driving. I needed the night air, needed to hear my own footsteps, needed to feel like I was still connected to something real. That's when I saw it. My phone buzzed. A new message. Blocked number. "Hey, I know we haven't talked. Mom said you blocked them, I get it. But she's not doing great. Dad's stressed. Maybe you should come by. Talk face to face. Clear the air. You don't have to stay. Just come. Brandon." I stood under a streetlight reading it over and over. It didn't sound like him. It didn't smell like him. It was measured. Almost sincere. Almost. Was it manipulation? Or worse? Was it regret? I didn't respond. I went home, poured myself a glass of off-brand red wine, and sat on my mattress, staring at the ceiling. Was there anything I needed to say to them? Anything they needed to hear? I didn't know yet, but I knew this. I wasn't going to walk into that house as a daughter begging for a seat at the table. If I walked back in, it would be as someone who had built her own damn table, and it would be on my terms. That week, I threw myself into work harder than ever. I started journaling again, not the pretty kind, the furious kind. I wrote until my wrists hurt, about being the reliable one, the second choice, the strong but disposable child. Dr. Grayson noticed. "You're sharper lately," he said one afternoon during our project review, "but heavier." "I'm just busy," I said. He didn't press, but later, when we passed in the hallway, he stopped me. "You know," he said gently, "some families don't recognize the damage they do until you hold up a mirror. Others look into that mirror and break it. What if mine just laughs at it? Then you know who they are, and who you're not." Those words stuck. The next day, I got a call from a blocked number while I was changing Harper's nightlight bulb. I let it ring, and then I checked voicemail. It was my mom. Her voice cracked right at the beginning. "Emily, it's me. I don't know if you'll even hear this. Your father says I should stop trying, but I don't want to. Brandon says we pushed you away, but we were scared. I don't know how to fix it. Please, just call back." It was the closest thing I'd ever heard to an apology from her. But it wasn't one. It was fear. Not guilt. Not understanding. Fear of being cut out. Still, something inside me stirred. Something I didn't want to name. And then, 2 days later, came the twist I didn't expect. I was in Dr. Grayson's office, organizing datasets, when he looked up and said, "Have you ever considered presenting at the Watkins Foundation?" My hands froze on the keyboard. "The what?" "They fund social resilience programs," he said. "You've got the experience, the research, the story. They'd eat it up." I'm just a student," he smiled. "You're a force. Don't underestimate that." He pulled out a folder. Inside, grant details, submission guidelines, and a note that said, "Proposal deadline, 21 days, the same week as my birthday, the same date I got pushed out last year. Full circle. Only this time, I wouldn't be the one standing on the porch with bags in hand. I'd be walking into a boardroom, with purpose, with receipts, with power, and maybe, just maybe, I'd finally stop hearing that silence at night, because my voice would be louder than everything they tried to mute. My hands shook when I picked up the application packet for the Watkins Foundation grant, not because I didn't feel ready, but because for the first time in months, maybe years, I knew exactly what I wanted, and that terrified me. This wasn't just some cash prize or shiny internship. The Watkins Foundation didn't fund people, they funded legacies. Winning meant that Safe Resilience, our research to impact initiative, could grow beyond the university walls. We could hire real staff, offer real support. It could be something permanent, bigger than me, bigger than the people who thought they could shrink me. The proposal asked for 3 things: a personal statement, a research-backed social impact plan, a 15-minute live presentation for the board. 3 parts, 1 shot, and only 21 days. I walked home in the rain that night, the packet tucked inside my hoodie like sacred scripture. I felt electrified, like every rejection, every slammed door, every night on that couch had been rehearsals for this moment. The next morning, I set an alarm for 5:30 a.m. I started writing. I wrote about the girl who came home to find her life stuffed in garbage bags. About how that girl didn't fall apart. She just started again. I wrote about Zoe and Harper. About their mom's night shifts and macaroni necklaces and whispered bedtime confessions. About resilience that doesn't come from grand speeches, but from showing up over and over again. I wrote about how silence can suffocate people, and how research can turn pain into protection. I turned my hurt into data, into plans, into blueprints. And the more I wrote, the more I felt something building in my chest, like a new kind of heartbeat, until I got a text from Aunt Carol. She was the one who used to sneak me ice cream during family barbecues, the only one who ever said, "I see you, M," when I won an award. "Hey, hun, just saw an article floating around about some program you're running. Looks amazing. Just checking in. I'm guessing your mom hasn't reached out, but she's been crying a lot lately, not trying to pick sides, just thinking of you." And just like that, the rhythm cracked. Because now she knew, which meant someone in the family had shared it. Probably Mom, maybe Brandon, probably both. I felt it, that old pull, that whispering guilt. She's still your mother. She's trying. Don't be cruel. But then I remembered the silence, the bags, the note. You don't live here anymore. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. So I took a breath and replied, "Thanks for the message. Hope you're doing well too." Nothing else. The next few days blurred. I slept in short, uneven stretches. My diet became coffee, pretzels, and occasional sandwiches Jules forced into my hand like some kind of food fairy. She even bought me a whiteboard. "Visual thinkers win grants," she said, sticking it on my wall. Or at least they look smart while trying. Every square inch of that board filled with diagrams, phrases, quotes from the families I'd interviewed. At the top, I wrote one thing in red. The strong one shouldn't be the forgotten one. And underneath it, make them listen. One night at 11:43 p.m., Jules found me on the kitchen floor in sweatpants, talking to myself. "I'm not crazy," I said, blinking at her. "I'm just practicing." She handed me chamomile tea like she was sedating a wild animal. "You're going to crush this, Em. You know that, right?" I stared into the steam rising from the mug. I hope they choke on how much I don't need them anymore. The morning of the submission deadline, I printed the final proposal at the University Print Center. 47 pages, crisp, heavy in my hands. I handed it over to the Watkins Foundation front desk like I was surrendering a part of myself. Except this part was polished, refined, real. It was done. And for 5 days, everything went quiet. Until Saturday night. I was brushing my teeth, watching a mindless cooking video on my phone, when it buzzed with a new voicemail. No name, no number, just Mom's voice. "Emily, I don't know how else to say this. Brandon's in a rough place. He's spiraling. And your father? Well, he won't admit it, but he's scared too. I know you think we don't care, but we do. I do. Please call me." No apology, no ownership. Just Brandon. Always Brandon. The gravity of that voicemail hit me harder than I expected, because for a split second, a stupid, microscopic second, I felt bad for him. Then I remembered the post, the comment, the room, the smile. I deleted the voicemail. 3 days later, I got an email from Watkins. "Congratulations. You've been selected as a finalist. Your live presentation is scheduled for May 21st at 2 p.m. We look forward to seeing you." May 21st. My birthday. Exactly 1 year to the day they put me in the trash. You couldn't script it better. I stared at the screen, heart thudding. It wasn't just a full circle moment. It was my moment. But life doesn't let you win quietly. 2 hours later, Jules knocked on my door with her phone in hand, her face pale. "You're not gonna like this." She turned the screen toward me. A video, posted by Brandon, his voice shaky, expression solemn. "Hey guys, I just want to be real for a sec. This past year's been hard. A lot of stuff went down with my family. I've been struggling with depression, anxiety, trying to be better. If you've ever felt like the strong ones in your life walked away when you needed them, this is for you." My jaw clenched. He kept talking. "My sister, she cut us off. And I get it. Maybe she had her reasons. But sometimes people forget men hurt too." I didn't throw the phone, but I wanted to. Jules stared at me. "He's trying to flip it. He's trying to brand it," I said. He was turning abandonment into a sympathy tour. And if that wasn't enough to make my blood boil, the caption under the video read, "Trying to heal. 1 day at a time. Family trauma. Mental health awareness." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know whether to scream or sob or laugh like a maniac. But I knew one thing. I had 10 days until the presentation, and I was going to make sure the world knew the truth. Not Brandon's version, not my mother's rewrite, mine. Because this wasn't just a speech anymore. It was a reckoning. 10 days. 10 days until I stood in front of a boardroom full of people in suits and told them why I deserved to build something from the ruins of my life. 10 days to take every scar and turn it into a mission. 10 days to fight back. Not with rage, but with truth. I was prepared for the nerves, for the revisions, for the second-guessing and obsessive rewriting of every sentence in my presentation. What I wasn't prepared for was them showing up before I even got the chance. It was a Wednesday, 1 week before the Watkins Foundation presentation. I was in the university's community center, finishing up a mock pitch with Dr. Grayson and another grad student who had the enviable confidence of someone who'd never had to explain themselves to anyone. "I'd suggest flipping the structure," Grayson said, tapping his pen against my notes. "Start with the client impact, then build to the data. Lead with heart. You've got the brain part down." I was scribbling in the margins when I heard the door open behind me. Grayson looked up. His brow creased. "Can I help you?" I turned, and there they were. My mom, my dad, Brandon, all standing awkwardly in the doorway like a sitcom family trying to crash a graduation ceremony they weren't invited to. "What the hell?" I breathed. Brandon had his hands in his pockets. My mom looked like she'd been crying. My dad looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I stood slowly. "This is a private meeting. We just wanted to talk," my mom said, stepping forward. "In the middle of my work?" "We saw the article," she continued, ignoring the question. "The video, and now this Watkins thing. You've made a name for yourself." "I didn't do it for attention," she nodded. "I know, I think we owe you a conversation." Dr. Grayson stood. "Do you need me to stay, Emily?" "No," I said, keeping my eyes on them. "It's fine." He gave me a look. One part worry, one part "you got this," and left. The door clicked shut behind him. I folded my arms. "You've got 5 minutes," Brandon snorted. "You gonna time us?" "You're already using my time," I snapped. "So, yes." My mom opened her mouth, but it was Brandon who jumped in first. "Look, I know you hate me." "You think this is about hate?" I said. Nearly laughing. "This is about respect, which you've never shown me. Not once." He shrugged. "You've always thought you were better than me." "No," I said. "I became better, and you couldn't handle it." His mouth snapped shut. My mom stepped in, her voice softer now. "We didn't know you were hurting that much. You didn't ask. You blocked us. You wouldn't take our calls. Because I already knew what you were going to say," I said, my voice rising. "You were going to make excuses, say Brandon needed more help, that I was the strong one, that you assumed I'd be fine. You always assumed I'd be fine." "We were under pressure," my dad said suddenly. "Financially, emotionally. Your brother was spiraling. He came home, and you chose him," I said, cutting him off. "Just say it. You chose him." The silence in the room was thick, stifling. Then finally, my mother looked up at me with eyes glassy from tears. "You're right. It didn't make me feel better. It just made me feel tired." "I can't believe you came here," I said. "Why now? You've had a year." "We saw the article," Brandon said. "We saw what you're doing, and we realized we lost something important." "My usefulness?" I asked, deadpan. "My college loans? My ability to clean up after you?" "No," my mother said. "Our daughter." The words fell into the room like a stone into still water. They rippled. They hurt. But they didn't move me. "I'm not here for your guilt," I said. "I'm here to build something." "Can we help?" she asked. It was so earnest I almost laughed. "You want to help?" I said. "Now?" I walked to the table, picked up my folder, the one with my presentation drafts, stats, handwritten notes from nights I cried into cold noodles while typing, and held it up. "This," I said, "you don't get to be part of this. You don't get to claim any of it. Because while you were watching Brandon livestream his laziness, I was working until my lungs ached." My dad stepped forward. "I just want to understand. Why do you hate us so much?" "I don't hate you," I said, quiet now. "I just finally realized I don't need you." The room went still. My mother's face fell. Brandon looked like he wanted to say something clever or cutting, but for once, he didn't. "Please leave," I said. No one moved. Now, they left. Just like that. No fight, no blow-up, just silence again. But this silence was different. It was mine. That night, Jules brought over Thai food and an old bottle of Prosecco. "You good?" she asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I think so." "Did you expect them to show up?" "Eventually, I just didn't expect to feel nothing." She nodded, cracking open the bottle. "That's growth," she said, pouring a glass. "Or, Soul calluses. I laughed. And when I opened my laptop to rehearse the presentation again, I didn't feel dread. I felt ready, because now I wasn't speaking from pain. I was speaking from power. And if they couldn't handle that, they never really loved me. They just loved who I was when I kept quiet. I didn't hear from them again. Not for 2 days, not for 5, not for a week. No texts, no voicemails, no mystery packages left on my doorstep pretending to be apologies. It was almost eerie, like they'd collectively decided to vanish. And you'd think that silence would bring relief, but it didn't. It brought doubt. What if I had gone too far? What if I had cut the cord too cleanly? What if they were really trying and I had missed the one window to fix what was left? The voice in my head didn't sound like me. It sounded like someone who had spent too long excusing other people's cruelty because they meant well, so I shoved it down. Again, I threw myself into the final preparation for the Watkins presentation. Dr. Grayson called it, "Weaponizing your wounds for good." He said it with a smirk, but the truth in his words hit like a bell inside my chest. I wasn't just showing the foundation a project. I was showing them the blueprint of how I survived. Every line of my script was a brick in the house I was building for others like me. People who never got a second chance from the people who should have loved them first. But then 3 days before the presentation, something happened that made every scar ache again. I was on my way to Jules's place when I passed by my old street. I don't know why I turned down it. Habit, maybe. Or something dumber. Nostalgia wrapped in curiosity. The house looked the same. Same faded red door. Same cracked driveway. Same swing set in the yard with one missing chain. The one I fell from in 5th grade and fractured my wrist. I remembered crying. I remembered my mom yelling at me for being dramatic. But what stopped me in my tracks wasn't the house. It was what I saw on the porch. A for sale sign. I blinked, heart stuttering. No way. I parked half a block down and walked back like a stalker. The windows were bare, the blinds open. There were no curtains, no lights on. The lawn was overgrown. The house was empty. I stood there in the dying light of evening, staring. Then from across the street, I heard a voice. Emily? It was Mrs. Halverson, our neighbor of 20 years. She was older now, thinner, her white curls frizzier than I remembered, but her eyes were sharp. Hi, I said, trying to smile. She walked over, crossing the lawn like she had something urgent to say. I was hoping I'd run into you. I saw your article. That was something. You've grown into a hell of a woman. Thank you. She looked over at the house. They left last week. My mouth went dry. Left? Moved out. Said they needed a fresh start. Brandon too. I blinked. All 3 of them? Yup. Said the house had bad memories. Bad memories? She kept talking. Your mom told me you might come by. She asked me to give you this. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. I hesitated. What is it? Said it was yours. Legal stuff. My heart started racing. Legal? I didn't open it, she said. Didn't want to pry. I took it. Hands shaking. Opened the flap. Inside was a single letter. From a law firm. My grandmother's estate. Not the one who lived in that house. My dad's mom. The one from Arizona who died years ago. The one who always sent me $5 bills on birthdays and signed her cards. Love you more than the moon. I hadn't thought of her in ages. The letter said she'd left behind a small property. An acre of land with a tiny vacation cabin. Nothing big. But she had left it. To me. Only me. And here's the kicker. The estate had been processed over a year ago. 3 weeks before I came home to the bags on the porch. There was a second page. It said the legal documents had been mailed to my parents' house first, since I was still legally a dependent when the will was written. They were supposed to pass it to me. They never did. They knew. They knew. My knees buckled slightly, and Mrs. Halverson reached out to steady me. You okay? I nodded, but I wasn't. I was swirling, sinking. I left without another word. When I got home, I sat on the floor and stared at the letter until my eyes blurred. They hadn't just chosen Brandon. They hadn't just thrown me out. They'd stolen from me. They'd hidden my own inheritance, lied by omission, buried what could have helped me survive when I needed it most. And now, they were gone. No forwarding address, no explanation, only a goddamn envelope left with a neighbor. Jules came over an hour later and found me still sitting there. The letter crumpled in my lap. They what? She gasped after I told her. I handed her the paper. She read it twice, slower the second time. Oh my God, Emily, this is criminal. It's not, I said flatly. Technically, they were allowed to hold it, but they should have told me. The attorney assumed I'd been notified. They even confirmed it by phone with my dad. Her jaw dropped. This isn't just neglect. This is greed. I nodded. But beneath the fury, a dark, quieter question began to whisper inside me. What if I hadn't found out? What if they had sold the land? Spent the money? What if I had never known? What else had they kept? That night, I called the attorney listed in the letter. He was surprised to hear from me. Yes, your grandmother's cabin was sold. You now have a trust account with the proceeds, a little over $48,000. I nearly dropped the phone. $48,000. All while I was living off ramen and gas station coffee, they had been sitting on this. This money was mine, I said, not even realizing I was crying until I tasted salt. Yes, we assumed your guardians had explained. We sent everything to them. Of course they did. Of course they did. I hung up and stared at my phone, and then, as if summoned by my rage, it buzzed again. Blocked number, voicemail. I almost didn't listen, but I did. It was Brandon. Hey, I don't know if you got the thing Mom left with the neighbor, but if you did, look, don't overreact. It was complicated. We didn't want to upset you. And anyway, it's not like you needed the money. You were always resourceful. Just don't do anything stupid, okay? The audacity. The audacity to call theft complicated. To suggest that I didn't need it. That I should just let it go. I stared at the wall. Then I opened my laptop. And I rewrote the opening line of my Watkins presentation. Now it read, I didn't just lose my home. I lost my name, my place, and my right to be told the truth. But in that silence, I found a different kind of power. Because now I wasn't just walking into that room with statistics. I was walking in with evidence. And the story wasn't just survival anymore. It was justice. I arrived early. Too early, honestly. The Watkins Foundation building was one of those intimidating glass-paneled high-rises that looked like it had been dropped from the future. The lobby was spotless, quiet. A man in a tailored navy suit handed me a visitor badge with a tight smile and a nod, and I followed the gold elevator to the 12th floor. The boardroom was even worse. Long, polished table, real leather chairs, a projector the size of a small car. People walked past the glass walls with purpose, fast, efficient, important. For a second, I wondered if I'd made a huge mistake. I wasn't wearing a suit. I didn't have a business degree. I was a 22-year-old kid in a navy blouse from Target, holding a flash drive and a manila folder and praying that the deodorant I'd used 3 times that morning would hold up. But then I remembered the cabin, the inheritance, the voicemail, and I remembered that I wasn't here for me anymore. I was here for every person who'd ever been told they were too strong to need protection. I was here to speak for the forgotten. A quiet tap on my shoulder broke the spiral. Eleanor Grayson, the program officer assigned to help me prep, smiled and gestured for me to follow her down the hall. They're finishing up the last presentation, she said softly. You're next. I swallowed hard. The door opened, and the room fell into place like a movie scene. 7 board members sat across the room, each with an iPad and a stack of printed summaries. At the head of the table was William Watkins himself, older. Silver hair, kind eyes, but the kind of smile that didn't give away what he was thinking. Miss Carter, he said, standing to shake my hand. We've been looking forward to hearing from you. I smiled. Thank you for having me. They nodded. Polite, professional, cool. The lights dimmed. The projector lit up. My slides appeared. Clean, simple, stark. And I began. I told them about Safe Resilience, what it was, how it started, the families we'd interviewed, the data we'd collected. I quoted mothers who cried during intake sessions, students who slept in their cars between classes, kids who got evicted in the middle of final exams. I spoke clearly. I spoke slowly, and then I paused. I walked to the edge of the projector light, faced them directly, and I told my story. I told them about the birthday trip, the garbage bags, the note on the door, the silence. I told them how I built this program from a borrowed couch and a part-time job, how I filed grant paperwork at 2 a.m., how I studied resilience not from a textbook, but because I had no choice but to live it. And then I said this. People talk about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, but sometimes they forget that not everyone even has boots. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones cutting the straps while you're still wearing them. There was a pause. Real silence this time. Not the kind that hurts, the kind that listens. I clicked to the final slide. Our impact. Real numbers. Real results. This program isn't about revenge, I said. It's about restoration. It's about catching people before the fall, so they don't have to spend 10 years climbing out. Then I stepped back. Thank you. I stood there, heart jackhammering in my chest, the projector humming behind me, waiting. Mr. Watkins leaned forward. Miss Carter, he said. That was one of the most honest and impactful presentations we've seen in a very long time. I nodded, speechless. We'll be in touch. The meeting ended. People clapped politely, formally, and then they returned to their notes. Eleanor walked me out, her hand light on my shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a year. But as we reached the lobby, the receptionist looked up and said something that stopped me cold. "Miss Carter," she said gently, "there's someone here asking for you." I frowned. Then I turned. It was Brandon, sitting in one of the pristine lobby chairs like he belonged there, wearing a hoodie over what might have been pajama pants and the same worn sneakers he's probably had since college. He was holding something. My childhood scrapbook, the blue one with glitter on the cover. He stood when he saw me. "Hey, what the hell are you doing here?" I heard about this presentation. I figured you'd be here. I found this while packing." "You followed me here?" "Mom told me the time," he said. "I just wanted to say, no." He blinked. "No? No," I repeated. "Whatever this is, bringing me some dusty book like it's a peace offering. No." He held it out anyway. "Just take it." I didn't move. "You don't get to show up now," I said, my voice low. "Not after everything." "I didn't know about the cabin," he blurted. "It wasn't my idea." I stepped closer. "Brandon," I said carefully, "I believe you." He exhaled, relieved. "But I don't care." He blinked, stunned. "I don't care if it wasn't your idea. I don't care if Mom lied to you too, because even without that inheritance, you still took my room. You laughed while they erased me. You posted videos mocking me. You never called. Not once. Not until people started paying attention to me." He looked down. "You want to feel forgiven?" I asked. "Then go do something with your life, but don't use me as the first step." I turned to leave. "You hate me," he said softly. I looked over my shoulder. "No," I said. "Hating you would mean I still cared what you did with your life. I don't." And I walked away. I didn't take the scrapbook. I didn't look back. Not once. That night, I sat on my fire escape, watching the sun dip behind the city skyline, a tea mug warm in my hands, my chest finally quiet. No more guilt. No more what-ifs. Just stillness. And a single truth rising up like a vow. They don't get to take credit for the woman I became. They lost the right to call me theirs. And I claimed myself. The Watkins Foundation called the next morning. I had just poured my coffee, oat milk, 3 ice cubes, always the same, when the phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Unknown number. I hesitated for a second. For a split second, I thought, it's Mom again. But then I heard the voice. "Hi, is this Emily Carter?" "Yes, speaking. This is Marla from the Watkins Foundation. I'm calling to congratulate you. Your proposal has been unanimously approved for full funding." The mug nearly slipped from my hands. "Wait, what?" "You've been awarded the primary grant for this year. Full implementation support, $150,000 over 2 years, and an additional $20,000 in operational costs." I pressed my hand to my chest. "You'll also be invited to our National Innovation Forum this fall to speak about your work." She said more things after that. Details, onboarding, a meeting next Tuesday. But my brain had already left the building. When I hung up, I just stood in my tiny kitchen, barefoot, stunned. I didn't cry. Not immediately, but a full-body tremble crept in, quiet as breath. It was done. I had done it. And they hadn't been able to stop me. Not the parents who bet against me. Not the brother who played victim to stay king. Not even the aching loneliness that clawed at me for months. I had walked through all of it. And I came out whole. I picked up my phone again. This time, I dialed. Not my parents, not Brandon, Dr. Grayson. He answered after one ring. "Emily?" They said yes. He exhaled. I had a feeling. I don't know what to say. He laughed. That dry, warm chuckle of his. "Then don't say anything. Just feel it." And I did. For once, I let the feeling settle. I didn't rush to the next crisis. Didn't ask what came next. I just felt it. Later that evening, I met Jules at our favorite hole-in-the-wall Thai place. We got the same booth as always, the one with the wobbly table. And when I told her, she screamed loud enough that the man 2 tables over dropped his chopsticks. "You're funded?" she gasped. "Like, real funded." I nodded, grinning. She launched across the table and hugged me like we were 12 years old again at a sleepover. "I knew it," she said. "I knew it. You didn't just rise, you flew." We toasted with Diet Coke. She insisted on dessert. We shared mango sticky rice and talked about everything and nothing. About rent and haircuts. And the way the air smelled like summer was finally here. It was the first time in a year that I felt full. Not just in my stomach, in my spirit. When I got home, the sun was still holding onto the edges of the sky. I climbed the fire escape again, laptop in hand, and started drafting a letter. Not to them, not to the foundation, to me. To the girl who sat on that porch last year, shaking, staring at trash bags and wondering how it had come to this. I wrote to her like a friend. You are not disposable. You are not difficult. You are not too much. You are just too awake for people who prefer sleepwalking. You will not only survive this, you will thrive in spite of it. And one day they'll say your name in rooms they thought you'd never enter. I hit save, closed the laptop, and that's when I saw it. A message request. From Brandon, of course. I stared at it, expecting more damage control, more self-pity. Another half-hearted attempt at rewiring the narrative to keep him center stage. But what I found was different. I know you won't believe me, but I saw your name on the Watkins site. The spotlight is on you now. I wanted it too. I won't lie, but you earned it. You actually did. And I didn't. And I'm sorry for how I handled everything. I'm trying to get help. Therapy, I mean. I don't want to keep being the villain in your story, even if I'm not the hero. Just thought you should know. I stared at it for a long time, and then I closed it. No reply. Not out of malice, but because I was finally free. Later that night, Jules sent me a screenshot. Brandon had posted a video. A new tone. No hashtags. No filters. This is an apology, he said. Not for views. Not for attention. Just because I owe it. To someone who deserved better. She knows who she is. No one tagged me. No one needed to. For once, Brandon was letting the spotlight go. And it hit me. All at once. They weren't going to haunt me anymore. Not with their words. Not with their silence. Not even with their sudden apologies. I was no longer building my life in reaction to what they'd done. I was building it because I wanted it. Because it was mine. Every brick, every scar, every breath, mine. And there was only one thing left to do. I opened the trust account, transferred the funds to my new organization's business account, and I wrote the check for the cabin. A friend of my grandmother's, a woman named Letty, had offered to sell it back when I was ready. I think it's time, I wrote in the memo line. I didn't need revenge. I had legacy. I didn't expect the national news to pick it up. That part was surreal. It started with a small segment, a 4-minute feature on the Watkins Foundation's social justice grant recipients. I was one of 3 finalists highlighted, and my face was on screen for maybe 20 seconds. Enough to quote me saying, "Resilience is what grows in the spaces left empty by those who were supposed to love you." I thought nothing of it. I went back to work. Safe Resilience launched officially the following week. I opened a small office near the university. 2 volunteers, a folding table, a coffee maker that wheezed when it tried to work. It was tiny, but it was mine. We hosted our first walk-in clinic on a Friday. 7 people showed up. Students, single parents, 2 older tenants facing illegal eviction. We didn't solve everything, but we listened. We helped. And that night, as I sat cross-legged on the floor of the new space, surrounded by binders and cold pizza, I got the message. From someone I hadn't spoken to since prom night. Dylan Wright. He'd been my high school boyfriend. Not the love of my life type. More like the person who knew all my secrets until one day he didn't. "Emily, I saw you on CBS. I'm stunned. You're amazing. Proud of you. Also, I'm sorry for not knowing how to be there when you needed me back then." I stared at it for a long time, then I smiled, because he wasn't the only one. Over the next 48 hours, I received dozens of messages. Old classmates, teachers, even a distant cousin who once mocked my GPA obsession. All of them saying the same thing. "We didn't know. We see you now. You're incredible." And I appreciated it. I really did. But there was one message I kept opening and closing. Mom. Her texts were no longer blocked. I had unblocked them after the inheritance letter. Not to reconcile, but in case something legal came up. Now she was texting. "Saw you on TV? You looked beautiful. Your grandma would be proud. We all are. I miss you. Would love to see the cabin sometime. Maybe have coffee? No pressure?" I stared at that last one longer than I should have. Coffee? Now? After all this time? I didn't reply. I didn't delete it, either. I just let it sit there, floating in that space between before and after. That weekend, I went to visit the cabin for the first time. It was small, rustic. The wood creaked underfoot. The shutters needed work, but it sat on a bluff that overlooked a lake, and the trees surrounding it felt like a hug. Letty met me there. She was in her 70s, with silver hair, long earrings, and a raspy laugh that made me want to trust her immediately. "She loved this place," she said, unlocking the door. "Your grandma said it was her quiet." I stepped inside. Dust everywhere, cobwebs, old furniture with thick fabric. A stove that probably hadn't worked since Bush was in office. But it smelled like her. vanilla and pine. And for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. I want to keep it, I said. Fix it up. Make it mine. Letty nodded. She left it for you, not them. We walked around the property. She showed me where the blueberry bushes grew, the trail that led down to the lake, the small shed with a rusted lock. She left some boxes in there, Letty said. Old letters, photos. She wanted you to have them. I opened the shed and found them, stacked neatly. And as I flipped through one old envelope, I found a letter addressed to me, handwritten, shaky cursive. Emily, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, but I want you to know something. I saw you. Even when they didn't. I saw your light, your hunger, your kindness. I left this place for you because I know you'll turn it into something beautiful, because that's what you do. You turn broken things into shelter. Be free, sweetheart, and never let anyone tell you how small you are again. Love always, Grandma, I cried then. Not the controlled, dignified kind. The ugly, sobbing on the floor kind. Letty just sat beside me, holding my hand. We didn't talk. There was nothing else to say. Later that night, I drove back into town, parked my car, and climbed the fire escape one last time. And that's when I saw the envelope taped to my apartment door. No name. Just, please read. I opened it. Inside, a photo of me at 7 years old, missing my 2 front teeth, hugging Brandon at his high school graduation. We were both smiling. Both real smiles. Underneath, a handwritten note in my mother's shaky script. I was proud of you then. I just didn't know how to show it. I'm still learning. If there's ever a day you're willing, I'd like to start again. No expectations, just tea, just time. I sat on the steps of the fire escape, holding that photo, staring out at the street below. I didn't know if I could forgive her. Not yet, maybe not ever. But for the first time, I didn't feel like I needed to make that decision right away. I was no longer rushing to close wounds. I was letting them breathe, letting me breathe, because this chapter wasn't about proving anything anymore. It was about living, on my terms. And whether she came back into my life or not, I would still be whole. 1 year to the day. That was the date on the calendar when I woke up the next morning, May 21st, my birthday. The day it all started, or ended, depending on how you looked at it. The day I returned from my little solo beach trip to find my life scattered in black garbage bags on the porch like leftovers no one wanted anymore. Funny thing is, I didn't feel bitter. Not that morning. Not even a little. I didn't feel sad or angry or hollow. I felt centered and still. The kind of stillness that comes only after every wave has crashed and you've stopped trying to swim against them. I brewed my coffee slowly, let the warm light spill through my window like a blessing. I put on a playlist that didn't make me cry and ate a blueberry muffin from the bakery down the street. I didn't answer texts. I didn't check notifications. I just was. And then, around 10, I drove to the cabin, not to escape, but to begin. Letty had left the keys in a ceramic frog by the front porch. The paint was peeling on the door, the windows needed scrubbing, and something was definitely living in the chimney. But none of that mattered. This place was mine. Mine because someone saw me when I couldn't even see myself. Mine because I refused to let them take it too. Mine because it had survived the storm, just like me. I spent the afternoon cleaning, scrubbing the counters, dusting old picture frames, stacking the boxes in one corner and opening the windows to let the air flow through. And while I worked, I played music, out loud, loud enough that the birds in the trees paused to listen. Around 4 in the afternoon, 4 in the my phone buzzed. One new voicemail, no number. I debated for a full minute before pressing play. My mother's voice, but it wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't careful, it was tired. Hi, Em. I know today's your birthday. I don't know if you'll even listen to this, but I wanted to say happy birthday. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what we did, for not protecting you, for not seeing you clearly, for letting our comfort come before your pain. We thought we were doing what made sense, but we forgot that love isn't supposed to make sense. It's supposed to make space. She paused. You don't owe us anything. I know that now, but if you ever want to talk, just to talk, I'm here. No expectations. I promise. The line clicked off. No begging, no twisting, just her voice, shaky and human. I sat there on the cabin floor, holding that phone in both hands like it might disappear. I didn't call back. Not right then. Not. But for the first time, I didn't delete it. Because maybe, just maybe, healing wasn't about letting them back in. Maybe it was about knowing you could, and choosing to wait until it felt right. Later that night, Jules showed up with 2 bottles of wine, a bag of chips, and a birthday candle jammed into a gas station donut. You're impossible to shop for now that you're a nonprofit queen, she joked, setting everything on the counter. So I figured I'd just show up and remind you that you're still human. We sat on the cabin porch and watched the sun bleed into the lake. I can't believe it's been a year, she said. I can, I replied. It feels like 10. She looked at me for a long time. You're different, she said. In a good way. I'm quieter now, I said. Not quieter, she corrected. More rooted. I smiled, and I believed her. Later that night, after she fell asleep on the couch with a throw pillow over her face, I stepped outside alone. The stars above were sharp and countless. The lake shimmered with reflected light, and for a brief moment, I felt my younger self standing beside me, the girl who stood barefoot on her family's porch, gripping garbage bags and a backpack, wondering how it had come to this. I looked at her. She looked back. And I whispered, "We made it." She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The invitation came in a cream-colored envelope with gold trim. Inside, a folded card with a handwritten note in soft, shaky script. Emily, we're having a small dinner for your father's birthday this Sunday. Brandon will be there. We'd like you to come too. Just dinner, just family. No speeches, no blame. We miss you. Mom, I stared at it for a long time. Part of me expected this moment. The "we've changed" dinner. The soft entryway into closure. The part where they ask if I'll come back and act like things are different now. Maybe even believe it themselves. Another part of me, the louder, steelier part, didn't care anymore. And yet, I didn't throw the letter away. That Sunday, I went to the cabin, alone. I didn't go to the dinner. I didn't text or call. Instead, I lit a fire in the tiny hearth that hadn't been used in probably a decade. I opened one of Grandma's old photo boxes, the ones Letty had given me, and sifted through decades of faces and love and birthdays and front porch smiles. There was one photo, a Polaroid, of me as a baby on her lap. She was laughing. I wasn't even looking at the camera. I was staring at her like she was the whole sky. I held it like it might shatter. I set it on the windowsill. The next day, I signed the official nonprofit incorporation papers for Safe Resilience. I'd hired Jules part-time to help coordinate our growing caseload. We were up to 16 active clients and had just secured office space closer to the city. Our tiny team, all women, all survivors of some kind, worked from hand-me-down desks and fueled each day with coffee and shared playlists. We were building something, not out of bitterness, but from the very marrow of truth. And then one Friday afternoon, 3 weeks after the missed dinner, I got a call from an unknown number. Again, I answered. I don't know why. Maybe because I already knew who it was. Emily? It was my dad. His voice, never flowery, never tender, sounded smaller. I just wanted to say I understand. Silence. Understand what? I asked, calm. That you don't want to come back. That maybe you're better without us, he sighed. Your mother thought you might change your mind if we just gave it time. I knew better. I just, didn't know how much we lost until it was too late. My throat tightened, but I said nothing. I saw your name on the Watkins thing, he said. Then on the local news. Then on the damn NPR website. And I realized you weren't just doing okay. You were thriving, and we weren't even part of it. There was a pause. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do hope you find peace. For your sake, not ours. And then he said the one thing I never imagined I'd hear from the man who once looked me in the eye and told me I didn't live there anymore. I'm proud of you. Click. He hung up before I could say anything back. I sat there, staring at the quiet call log screen. No return number. Just a final echo of a man who had once chosen silence over me, now finally learning how to speak. But I didn't cry. I didn't ache. It felt like a chapter closing, not slammed shut in anger, just turned. A few days later, I drove out to the cabin again. There was a note pinned to the door, just a post-it. Painted the shed door for you. Was rusting through. Hope that's okay. Brandon. I stepped around to the back and saw it. Clean, new blue paint, fresh hardware. He hadn't signed his name with a flourish. He hadn't asked for anything. It was the first thing he'd ever done that didn't center him. I let it be. I didn't reach out. Didn't send a thank you. But I left a bottle of water and a protein bar in the shed the next week, just in case he came back to check on it. We weren't friends. We weren't healed. But maybe we were done hurting each other. 2 months later, Safe Resilience opened its second location. We had our own hotline now. A wait list of over 60 cases. One of our clients, a single mom named Rosa, hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack after we helped her win her appeal and stay in her home. My daughter will grow up in the same room I did, she whispered. Because of you. No, I said, holding her hand. Because of you. I just helped you hold the line. That night, I sat on the cabin porch with Jules and two of our interns. They toasted me with plastic cups filled with ginger ale and laughed about the time I once cried over losing my Wi-Fi at a fundraiser. "You're scary now," Jules said, winking. In a good way. I smiled, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a background character in my own story. I felt like the author. I didn't go back to that old house, didn't reclaim that room, because I'd built a life no one could throw into a garbage bag. I was no longer the strong one because I had to be. I was strong because I had chosen to be whole, without them, because I had built something they couldn't touch, something no one could take away. And that was the best birthday gift I could have ever given myself, the gift of me, whole, free, and finally, home.